Welcome back to This is Gravel here on Gravel Guru. I'm Matt, joined with
What's up, Matt? How you doing?
Neil Taylor, the Minister of Gravel. Neil, looking in the rearview mirror, Unbound 2024.
Man, what a week. Absolutely blast having everybody here in town. I love it. I love it every year when people come. I'm going to wait a few weeks to say that I can't wait till 2025's here, but it was good. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed getting to meet Instagram friends in real life, folks that listen or watch the show.
We met so many people throughout the expo.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I got to stand out there at the Tailwind booth for 2 days and had a blast. And, yeah, got to meet a ton of people. And so it was cool. I had a good time. Got to meet people at the finish line, actually, after the race. A lot of folks that were appreciative of the 100-mile coverage that we did that went out there. In fact, I heard that, I would say, more than anything else, really, through this past week was people coming up. Being very grateful for that 100-mile video that we put out, here about 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
when we pre-rode the route.
Yeah, so it was good. It was a really good time. Like I said, we're going to talk a lot about it, but it was an awesome week. Really, truly enjoy it.
I definitely had a blast. It was a very different week for me than it normally is or has been in the past few years. Honestly, about the fewest commitments I've had working-wise with it, but did some different things, worked with Lifetime in a few different ways, but was a fantastic weekend. It's always so awesome to be here in town when the town really just opens up its arms and says, come to Emporia, come ride bikes here in the Flint Hills with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was so cool just to see the town buzzing. Really, you forget for a little bit that you're in Emporia when the event's here just because of how many people are here. It reminds me of being in downtown Chicago almost. I mean, where I grew up and getting to kind of be in areas like that where there's just people all over, shoulder to shoulder. You're walking around the expo, you're walking around downtown, and there's people everywhere. And so, again, it was cool to get to see. Having said that, part of the reason I'm in Emporia is because I like the kind of small town vibe. And so it's nice that we kind of are back to that.
It's good while it's here.
Yeah.
But then it's also, I don't have to push the button to the crosswalk anymore.
I don't have to wait 45 minutes in line to get coffee at Granada in the morning. So,
Yeah, but glad it's here. And kind of echoing what you said, I remember, I think Thursday morning I drove past the campus, which the campus is just on the north end of downtown. Like, you rolled by it on the rollout, just 3 or 4 blocks up the street. Like, and they open up the dorms for 500 or 600 people, that type of thing. I remember looking across the campus either Thursday or Friday morning and going, wow, that's really cool to see that many bikes rolling around campus. That'd be really cool to see every day of the school year. But,
yeah.
It's great to have so many friends and family around in town and so many eyes on Emporia, even if people didn't make it to Emporia. And we'll jump into a little bit more about what we saw media coverage-wise and whatnot later on in the show. But it was just about 2 weeks ago. We're filming this on Thursday morning. It'll probably come out, Friday the 7th is probably when we'll release this, Friday evening of the 7th. About 2 weeks ago, we had Dan Hughes here in the studio with us, though, 4-time champion of the event, kind of doing route recon, talking about where the events come from. And, one thing that always seems to come up, Neil, is weather.
Yeah, weather.
There was so much talk of weather, and I understand 2023 was kind of miserable.
Yeah.
For a few miles.
Yeah.
But, man, we talked a lot about weather this year. What would you say the weather was like this year?
I think the weather was near perfect. I think it's a reminder to people to chill out. I'm talking to you. You know who you are. Chill out. Relax. Like, it's going to be okay. I don't know why everybody worries so much about the weather. Yes, I understand what 2023 was, but I don't think people realize just how unique 2023 and 2015 were. Both of those weeks, we had rain dump, not sprinkle, not even, half inches. We had inches worth of rain in 2023 and in 2015 dump on the course, specifically on that little mud 3-4 mile section that's right there outside of town. That's that, mile 11 to mile 15 area.
That is just like specifically named Mud Marathon.
Yeah,
if you're
it's a
local.
Strava segment. But we had, again, waterfalls worth of rain dump on those roads. That's a lot different than a lot of the normal rains that we get throughout the spring here. Scattered showers, yes. And so even the light sprinklings. And so we talked about weather, you and me, on rides a couple different times, and to me, it's always far out. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Really, to me, what you worry about is what's taking place Friday, Saturday. And Friday, the weather was nice. It wasn't sunny, but it was not raining. It was kind of an overcast day on Friday. The sun came out a little bit later on in the day. In fact, I was out on course putting up some signs for Lifetime out at Caw Reserve and out at Cahola. Those kind of big welcome to Cahola Hill signs and that are out there. And the sun was out. And, anything that was wet out there, because there was not a lot wet out there as we were driving the course to put those signs out there, was drying up pretty quickly. And then Saturday you get, again, kind of the overcast morning and then sunshine. And we saw the fastest times ever.
Correct.
Don't worry about the weather.
Correct. Don't worry about the weather. Kind of jumping ahead there in the episode, let's take a step back. Let's walk through the week. Let's walk through the entire week of Unbound, kind of what we did, what we saw. What day did we start with?
Oh, I would say we probably at least start with Wednesday. I mean, you went to the Hall of Fame. I wasn't able to make it, but you were out there at the Hall of Fame on Wednesday.
Yeah, for sure. So on Wednesday, I had a chance. The Hall of Fame actually hired me. We came in and we streamed it. I'll pop a link in the show description here where you can go back and watch the hour-and-a-half Hall of Fame inductions. 4 people, very honorable to get inducted. We had Linda Garrett, Celine Yeager, Nick Legan, and Jay Peterberry were the 4 inductees this year. What a well-deserved class. And the speeches were just very inspirational. They all kind of come from different facets of gravel cycling. But, Neil, the one I have to say that absolutely kind of took the breath away, and if you think about it, was Jay Peterberry when he got up there. Yeah. If you follow kind of cycling media at all, that 9 months ago, Jay got hit by a car out there. And the fact that he was able to recover the way he has, because I remember seeing the images that night. We were all so fearful of the worst for him.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing the images, and I remember being with you, in fact, when we went up to Solstice and kind of, seeing some of that stuff, because it was right around that same time. Yeah. And I just remember kind of just some of the thoughts that were in our head of what we do as we go out there and we ride bikes on these roads and kind of trusting in the vehicles that are out there that are around us, and just hoping that Jay would be all right, and to see him standing up there, and then to get to chat with him when we saw him down at the expo on Thursday was just, it was good. I'm glad that he's here. I'm glad that he's still here with us, because Jay clearly inspires a lot of people to really push their limits and go.
And beyond just speaking at the Hall of Fame, he rode his bike from the airport with Rebecca Rush and the crew. So just fantastic to see him out on the bike. But I'll put a link here. You should really just go watch that. If you're listening to us, you probably have time in the car on the train, or just turn the audio on and listen to their inductions. Marley Blonsky emceed it. Just a wonderful event, really, to get the week kicked off. And that was Wednesday night. And the Hall of Fame inductions have really just kind of become the kickoff to Unbound Week here in Emporia.
Yeah, no, it's something a lot of people I know come out to. They had a ride on Wednesday morning that, from what I saw on social media, looked like a lot of people were out there for that, because Wednesday morning, there's a lot of people already in town. In fact, there's a lot of people in town really kind of almost starting, I want to say starting Saturday before, at least, if not earlier. And so by Wednesday, there's a big crew here, so they kind of kick it off with that. And it was cool to get to see. And, it was, I think, a great way to, and has been a great way to kind of start the week over the past few years. Yeah. And this third class that has gone into the Hall of Fame. And I'm sure it'll kind of continue to be a kickoff moving forward. Then we get to Thursday, and Thursday morning is a little bit different.
Well, and one thing before Thursday, wrapping up the Hall of Fame, one thing they've started doing, they did it last year they inducted an item or an object or kind of a memory type thing into the Hall of Fame, and the Chase got in last year. The Salsa Chase, I mean, a lot of us have had chances to sit on it at races and whatnot. This year, they kicked it back as well and inducted a postcard registration. A truly just a throwback to how I believe Gravel Worlds.
I don't know if people know what you're talking about.
I mean, postcard registration was really gone by the time. I've never done it for an event.
I think I might have sent one in, but I don't know if I actually even made that race. But I feel like I sent one in very early on.
Yeah, I know Gravel Worlds. I know Trans Iowa, and Mark Stevenson, a Hall of Famer from last year or the first year?
First year.
First year inductees got up and did a presentation on that, and actually wrote his speech in the voice of a postcard talking about it. And it was just really good. And it's important to remember our history and where we've come from sending in a postcard to register to thousands of people showing up to these events now in a relatively short span of time.
It's the idea of a Hall of Fame is to remember the past,
Yeah.
to remember what's going on beforehand. And you mentioned, Trans Iowa, you mentioned Gravel Worlds, El Monzo, I know up there in Minnesota. Was also with Chris. He was one of those first year inductees as well. Was also postcard registration. So it is very much the roots of what kind of started in gravel cycling back, here in the U.S. And so it is cool to see that the postcard is in the Hall of Fame.
Then we move into Thursday morning.
Yeah, Thursday morning.
Expo kicks off Thursday afternoon. And this is really when the week begins. This is the event as a whole is going now.
Yeah, event's kicking off, and it's funny. I rode from the house on my bike over to downtown to go to the expo because I was helping Tailwind Nutrition out, and I roll up, and I kid you not, I hit it, and they're blocking everybody off so that we can't get in. Tailwind's booth is literally not even a stone's throw from the gate, and the clouds, just burst open with rain. And so right as the expo is getting ready to roll, the rain just starts to come out. Yeah, everybody's worried about it. Now, let me be clear. When I say burst open, it wasn't, again, waterfalls. It was some medium to light rain, I would say. Maybe if you want to call it sprinkles, you can call it sprinkles. But it wasn't bad, but it was enough to start pushing the panic button for a lot of people. And the amount of conversations that I had at that booth that were about the rain as opposed to about the event or about Tailwind was pretty wild because everybody was worried. And I had to let them know that drizzle was not... Because a lot of these people I don't think were here last year. And the rain that was last year was enough to, cause rivers to flow down the edges of the streets, you know, when it hits the edge and it's crazy. We weren't having that.
Overflowing downspouts and off roofs. And
and so, the edges of the road, they're kind of tapered off here. And
walls of water coming through.
Yeah, and we had that last year.
We did.
I stood there as I watched them come by. We did not have that this year. That was not the same type of rain. And so I tried to reassure people that it would be okay. And yet I still kept getting assaulted with messages nonstop from people just wanting to know, or questions at the booth from people wanting to know. But as we mentioned, some pretty good weather. But anyways, I'll quit talking about that and talk about the expo. It was cool to get to hang out down there. I got to see a lot of friends. I got a cool friendship bracelet here, which I am going to keep wearing because it's awesome. It says Unbound on it, and it's got my purple on it, and everybody knows how I like purple. Hey, man, you've seen my bike. You've seen my helmet. You've seen everything else.
I have seen your bike.
The funny thing is that I like purple. You like orange, and yet here I am wearing an orange hat, and you got kind of a purple shirt on today. Anyways, back to the expo. So I got to hang out at the Tailwind booth for the most part. I didn't really get to walk around and experience a lot of the expo this year as I have even in the past. I could have. They had no problem with me going and walking around. In fact, the guys from Tailwind, we all kind of took turns doing that. But I was just having fun standing here and talking to people.
I did walk around the expo myself. Understand I've worked in the bicycle retail for the last 2 years, and so nothing I was truly blown away by. I really enjoyed getting to see some of the product in person, though. I mean, just like consumer side, a lot of times working in a bike shop, you only see it if someone orders it or anything like that. So it was nice to go see it in person. Even tires. Let's talk tires, to go around where they've got all the displays laying out of all the different tread patterns and truly talk to them. And it's also nice being a local here. And, we put a lot of miles in locally, and we talk to a lot of friends locally here that put in a lot of miles and just go, this is why it doesn't work here. To be able to have that two-way conversation with the brands, and they might just brush us off and be like, what do these guys know or nothing, which is fair. But it's nice to go see that. But you know what the highlight was for me at the expo?
What?
Ice cream. Maple ice cream from the Untapped truck. Me and Kennedy, our almost 3-year-old daughter, that was our highlight. We ate ice cream.
I didn't get the ice cream. I wanted to be cautious with my dairy intolerances. it was a little bit rough.
You had to prepare for the 25.
Hey, I got to make sure everything's all right regardless, because I want to see my son succeed more than anything. And
Correct.
And you know that the mileage doesn't matter sometimes when it comes to the dairy intolerance. So let's just be very clear on that. But I got to stand there while I watched both of the other guys in the booth eat ice cream as I was just enjoying the view. And
to be fully transparent, I don't use a lot of their nutrition on the bike at all. I've tried it at times, and I don't have any problems with it.
Yeah.
Just not my go-to by any means. I'm very much a tailwind type nutrition person, and but it makes good ice cream.
I've had the syrup before.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's a nice kind of kick when you need a kick that you don't maybe have, and or you forgot, or maybe got a little bit back behind on nutrition. It's nice, but that's about the only time I've used it. And even then, it's been a while. But I really just need to go try the ice cream next year and quit worrying. I'll pay for it later.
Try it on Thursday so you have time to recover for Saturday.
Probably a good idea.
So, anyways, but walking around the expo was fun. I enjoyed that. But actually, Thursday night, we dropped a piece of content from our good buddy Frank.
Yep.
Frank is a meteorologist down at Cake TV in Wichita. He's rode the race multiple times. He's rode gravel bikes a lot of miles in the Flint Hills. If you're not from the Kansas area, Wichita is about 90 miles southwest of Emporia, kind of on the other end of the Flint Hills as us. The two towns kind of cap each end of the Flint Hills out there through the Kansas Turnpike. But Frank's a longtime gravel rider, but a meteorologist for TV station. He grew up in El Dorado, Kansas, so knows this area well. And he put out about a 3-minute video walking us through the extended forecast for race day. And I think people saw that Thursday evening, and it kind of started to change some, take a little bit of panic out of the day for him.
Yeah, I think people saw that and just were like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted to hear. And, I mean, that's what they wanted to hear. Everybody wanted to hear it was going to be okay, regardless of how many times people would tell them that. They wanted to hear it was going to be all right. It would be okay. And so it was great of Frank. Frank's come on and done that, at least for the last 3 or 4 years, I want to say, if not longer. He's been great to just give us a little bit of time, whether it's coming on the podcast directly or recording something like that video that you put out Thursday. And, it's not only that he knows, obviously, the weather and can help us with that, but one of the things that I took from watching that is him talking about the roads up there, and that the north roads and south roads are different, and a lot of rock up there, which if you rode the 100 or the 200, you understand that there's a lot of rock up there as opposed to a lot of dirt up there. And so, one of the dirt sections, they did reroute around on Friday for the XL and then Saturday for the 200. But otherwise, those roads up there can handle water. I mean, I've ridden Mazeys just like he talked about in the video in the past when it's been wet. I've pre-rode Mazeys before for Ryan when it's been wet, and have been able to go up there and ride 100 miles the day after a pretty good rain up there and have no hike-a-bike, because those roads up there handle water a little bit differently than the south roads handle water, I would say, because there is a lot more just hard, exposed rock than there is on the south side.
Well, and the one real thing I like about Frank is a real trained meteorologist.
Yeah.
We all have all of these apps on our phone and everything, but he understands the trends and how the patterns work here in Kansas and what he's seeing, and back to living here and riding here. It's just such a great resource that he provides for us and shares out there. So thank you again, Frank, for coming on. That rolls us into Friday. Friday's more the expo. Tension is starting to run a little bit higher. I mean, people are watching the clock, realizing they're within 24 hours of this thing.
Yeah, we get close there Thursday, and then Friday just hits, and tensions are high. On Thursday, me and Lane went to go do check-in. His tension was kind of high. His tension was, again, we know Son's doing 25 miles.
Correct, but
he's
also 10.
But it's his first ever gravel race. He's done runs before races, but never done a gravel race before. And so Friday, his tension's really high, and I'm trying to kind of figure out ways to help aid that out a little bit and help him relax. And we'll get to some of that here maybe a little bit later. But, I had to leave early in the morning to get back over there to the expo because I was helping the folks at Tailwind, and I enjoy doing that. But before I did that, I decided I was going to go for a bike ride Friday morning.
Yeah.
I also wanted to help people visually understand the difference between last year and this year. and visually to understand it, at least I think in part, is to go to the place that was filled with chaos last year, and that was the mud marathon section. And so, hopped on the bike Friday morning and rode my bike out in the rain, actually, because I was getting rained on for the first probably 6 or 7 miles of that ride. Rode my bike out in the rain to the mud marathon section, and then hopped on my bike and continued to ride through the entire mud section from last year, with the rain that had come on Thursday, with the rain that was sprinkling that morning, and rode through it all. Never had to once dismount. Now, don't get me wrong, the road was trashed as far as like the conditions, because that road usually is a brutal road. If you have to ride through that road on a dry day, it's chunky. There's a lot of exposed rock, a lot of dirt that's loose, a lot of ruts that are there maybe because of vehicles that have gone through after rains. And so it was a fun ride to go through it. But I just wanted to show people the difference. The difference between what last year was and what this year, especially when it came to rain. And so did some filming, talked about it a little bit quick, and just threw a quick Instagram reel out there. And, you got a lot of immediate feedback from people. The same kind of thing with Frank's video, that people are like, oh, it is different. That it wasn't just a little bit of drizzle last year that caused all this chaos. Because, again, each year new people do come out here, but all they see is what happened last year, having no idea. Last year we dumped, again, probably 4 to 6 inches on portions of that course throughout the week. And also we had a lot of rain in the weeks leading up to the event too. I mean, I remember going out for some of those XL training rides, and I mean, you being like, dude, there was over an inch plus of rain out where you were riding at overnight. And I'm like, yeah, I found some of those wet spots that, were hike-a-bike. And that was a constant, whereas this year just has not been the same way. So
yeah, the big thing on Friday was the XL rollout then. So
that was awesome. Sorry.
So the start line and stuff was reconfigured yet again this year downtown. I really liked the way they did it.
Yeah.
They shut off Commercial Street, I think, from pretty much all day Friday there in front of the Granada Theater. The starting line got moved back north a block from where it has been the last couple years, but they were able to do the starting chute right there on Commercial Street so people could line it. They didn't have to make the 90-degree turn out of the chute, but just what an environment.
Dude, it was so cool. So cool. Like, I was at the booth, and I look at my watch, and it's 2:45, and I'm like, hey, guys, I'm going to go watch the XL rollout. I can't miss this. Like, I want to see it. Having been there last year, like, to me, that was, obviously my day didn't go very long, but that was the coolest part of it, was to get that rollout. Even as it was going on, I was like, this is insane. This is the coolest rollout I've ever been a part of. And so I wanted to get down there. Man, I had to walk almost all the way down to 11th Avenue to be able to find a spot to stand, because just how thick and packed the amount of people that were out there were cheering them on as they rolled out. And it was awesome. And then came in the chopper.
Yeah. They had a helicopter.
I didn't get a helicopter. I saw Christy actually afterwards, and I said, where's my helicopter last year?
Right, but pretty cool. Lifetime
awesome.
Absolutely just kind of crushed it with the media coverage on it. And, I mean, that's been a running joke we've been around doing media coverage. I've been around it for media coverage for 10, 11 years now, and that's the running joke, is it needs a helicopter, because literally I don't think people realize how spread out this course is.
How spread out and how remote it is. I mean, people
you
don't...
can't get cars down a lot of these roads that easy.
No.
I mean,
especially when you have riders coming through. And the reality is, and we've seen this before, at least I have experienced it, where I am stuck behind a car on gravel having to slow down because the road's so low maintenance that the car's having to take it a lot slower than I'd be willing to go on my bike.
Yeah.
And
understand, Lachlan winning the race. Spoiler alert.
Sorry.
Average, if you don't know by now, why are you listening to us? It's a week later. Understand that he averaged 22:05 over 202 miles. That's the average.
Yeah, it's insane. It's so crazy. I mean, seriously, because
you can't get. It's hard other than a very expensive Jeep outfitted like the Orange Seal one, very outfitted stuff, level of stuff like the Can-Ams out there, to make, you can't hardly drive these roads that fast.
I was going to say, the only way I could do it is if I was taking advantage of every flat, fast gravel section in maybe a non-legal fashion to try to speed through those to
Correct.
make up for
So,
the slowdowns.
Again, having the helicopter was very cool for that. But, we roll into the ninth Friday night. We're all watching track leaders, watching the dots and all that, and that's just a lot of fun to see where they're at. I remember it had to be close to midnight. You and I were Snapchatting back and forth, just, hey, look at this, look at that.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, they can't keep this pace. It's going into the night. They'll slow down. I remember getting up at 5 o'clock to go watch the lead out on Saturday morning. I think I texted you. I'm like, they sped up. Like, just crazy speed on the XL.
Dude, the front end was just fast. I mean, it was unreal. But here's the thing, and I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say a lot of different times in a lot of different ways. The first thing I'm gonna say is the weather was fantastic. Like, as much as there was worry or concern for people, there was very little hike-a-bike for the XL from everything that I heard. Mm-hmm. There were, I think, one section that I heard some people say they had to get off and get through, but for the most part, they were riding, and they were putting down pace, and they were going quick, and it was clear for a very long time that at least that front group of about 5 or 6 that was there together was probably really feeding off each other, pushing one another. Obviously, through the night, that dwindled down a bit, and it was really, I think, just those 2 guys that were right up there at the front that came in, 1, 2, back to back. But, I mean, it was a crazy pace that they were putting down.
Yeah, so this really leads us into the start here then on Saturday morning. With the start Saturday morning, I got downtown about 5:15, Neil. Really feel the energy. It's still dark out. At this point, streetlights are on, music is playing. I remember walking around the corner here, and in the studio, if you were at like the Maxis or our IRC tent at the expo, you're about 500 feet at most from where we're sitting right now. So I remember walking out of here where I had my gear prepped, and I walk out the front door of the studio, and I hear Sandstorm playing at 5:15 in the morning in downtown Emporia, and just the energy. There's a lot of energy in the air on race morning.
Yeah, it's wild. So I didn't get up and get downtown like you did. I did not get to catch the pro elite starts. I needed my rest. I was tired from the last couple of days of standing on my feet, so I slept in a little bit longer, not too much longer. I was actually standing though down by the CVS where the rollout is at.
Neil, it is Unbound morning. How can you sleep?
Quite easily, in fact. It was great. And so I got down there by the CVS for the general classification rollouts. I knew that there would be plenty of video for the elite ones to watch if I wanted to see that and experience that. And so I had my coffee in hand and walked over there to the CVS and watched the 200 milers roll out and got to see some friends and kind of cheer them on. And the nice thing is it's about a third of a mile walk right back to the house from the CVS. So walked back home, and I got myself another cup of coffee, made myself an oatmeal, and turned around. And by that point, my son had woke up. And so me and him walked down right back to the same spot to watch the 100 milers roll out, which again was awesome. And it was a huge
and there were
group.
actually more, and I'd have to go back and look at data and all that stuff that I'm not actually going to do. But I don't know if this is the first time or not, but the 100 field I know was larger than the general 200.
The numbers that you would text me at least that morning were 1,800, and this is probably registered, I assume, but 1,800 for the 100 and 1,200 for the 200.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a huge group. We stood there and watched the rollout. It lasted over 9 minutes before we left.
Correct. It was a long time just rolling through the chute downtown and seeing that, but it's so much energy, so many people, and watching the forums and the comments on social media that we see here through the Gravel Guru platforms, like the amount of new people to gravel, the amount of new people to Emporia. Mm-hmm. I think that's love the lottery, hate the lottery. Actually, everybody hates the lottery. No one actually loves the lottery.
Locals love the lottery.
But it is what it is with it. But what it does provide is a lot of new people every year.
Yeah.
Access to the event. And just seeing those comments about people enjoying it for the first time. So anyways, we watched the rollouts that morning, and I will say this is the first time, well, I'll take that back. Running the bike shop the last 2 years, I haven't been out on course doing coverage on race day.
Yeah.
But the first time not running the bike shop that I haven't been out on the course since like 2010. But let's remind you, they have a helicopter. They don't really need everybody that owns a camera out there on course. And I think that's an important part of the race is being isolated out there.
Yeah.
I saw plenty of clips from Lifetime when they were doing their media coverage or the Instagram posts throughout the day that there were plenty of people out there with cameras capturing the day.
There are a lot of cameras. In fact, I saw a couple different times when they were going through on their Instagram lives as the coverage for the men's and the women's races were taking place, and would roll past one of those streets where the media's, I guess, allowed to be at,
points.
and their access points, and just the line of vehicles that's just stretched is, I mean, the reality is too, and this is just reality, the front end coverage isn't going to be getting any smaller heading into 2025. Like,
Correct.
next year, there's going to be more people that want to be here, that want to cover this, that want to be out there, because the reality is, and we've seen this, and I think everybody sees this, is that Unbound coverage hits. People want to see it. People want to know what's going on. People want to get to catch those videos, whether it's front end, whether it's course recon, or whether it's the back end folks. People want to kind of see what's going on, have that exposure to it, and maybe either A, come back here if they haven't been here in a while, or come maybe here for the first time. So
Yeah. Anyways, didn't go out on course, but enjoyed watching it through social media. I don't know that a lot of people understand, too, like without going out on course, and this is just me from a business standpoint, is it costs a lot of money to be out there for a day. If you take a couple people with you and bring some other photographers and videographers with us, it's hard to do it without 2 or 3 people in a vehicle with you, one kind of navigating, one getting you where you need to be, and then shooting and stuff. So anyways, enjoyed their coverage of it. They did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
All the media out there did. But anyways, we find ourselves back downtown, you and I.
yeah, so
Middle of the afternoon there to watch the elites come in.
Yeah, so after me and the little guy finished the 25-miler, we got back downtown. I did bring him originally down there, but he wanted to come back down and watch it as we were standing there. He clearly got tired, and we'll talk about the 25 later, but you got over there with me, and we got set up pretty nice spot right there at the finish line, and it was the 2-man sprint with Lachlan there at the end, and I really, we talk about all the different media coverage. I really like the fact that, some of that helicopter footage and other things has come out to kind of get to see, because we were watching the live roll through up to Highland Hill, and at Highland, you're like, all right, turning it off, turning cameras on, to get to see the final sprint and to hopefully capture some of that stuff. And so it's cool to get to see some of the tactics that Lachlan put in place there at the end. And he's the people's champ. Everybody loves seeing him win. And it was awesome to see that pink jersey roll through first, and to just see the joy, because he's one of those early folks that came from the World Tour, or earlier. Let me rephrase. Earlier, okay. Well, when the 2019 group kind of came, where Stetna came and he came, and Alex Howes came, and some of the other folks came. And I think Taylor Finney was here in 2019. And so, you get that group coming, and he was part of that, but he stayed around, and he's done some pretty impressive things on the bike. And
I remember I filmed the press conference for Lifetime after the race in 2019, and I remember sitting, it was in the chamber office building right there across from the finish line, probably at 7 or 9 p.m., something like that, well after the race was over for him. And there was a lot of questions, like, why are these World Tour pros coming over to race gravel here, and are they going to run gravel? I mean, blatantly, that was the question. Are the pros going to run gravel? And I don't know if it was him or Alex, but it was one of the 2 EF guys at that point that basically spoke up and said, we're not here to bring pro road to gravel. We're here to take gravel back to Europe and the pro road scene over there, this scene of where they hang out all day after the race is over and you support one another. And so that was really cool. And I will say this much. I was downtown with the family probably at 5 or 6 that evening, eating at the food court, and hanging out, just chatting to people. And, I mean, here's Lachlan walking by, eating food downtown. I mean, he's cleaned up after winning the Unbound 200, which anymore is a life-changing race to win.
Yeah.
But here he is, hanging out, talking to people. You might not recognize him if you didn't know him type deal without the kid on, but here are the pros just meandering through the crowd, talking to people, having a good time. So that's just one thing from 2019 that stood out to me saying that. So to finally see him win, he's gone out and done some crazy things and just embraced the dirt road riding, kind of off-road riding, endurance events. And it's cool to see him finally win this event.
He's embraced a lot of fun, I mean, you see, obviously, looking at his Tour Divide, that he rode here a little bit back. You think a couple of years ago to when he rode the whole Tour de France route, along with
The
all
alt
the
tour?
Yeah, I mean, like in riding with sandals, and just, I mean, he's one of those people that just has embraced kind of the fun aspect. And I feel like I remember reading one of his posts here over the last few days, and that was kind of one of the things that he talked about that he kind of chose to do here over the past few months, was instead of focus so hard on some of the numbers and other things, just going out and enjoying being on the bike, having a good time. And so, again, maybe people all have their favorites out there that they want to see, or that they're cheering on, or that they're rooting for. But I think when it comes to Lachlan winning, I think everybody's usually pretty happy with that, outside of obviously the other racers that would have liked to win themselves. But I think even I read Peter Stettner right, if we can't win, the person we want to win is Lachlan. I mean,
Correct.
And because that's just kind of the guy he is.
Yeah. So very cool to see that come out of it. And then we have to talk about the women's race.
Absolutely, 100%.
Like, without a doubt, there's been a lot of comments about the race leading up to race day. Whether that was, I don't want to use the word controversy, but the conversation about drafting going into it, what rules were going to be allowed. There's been a lot of, and rightfully so, push for the women to have their own race.
Absolutely. You look back over the last, almost 2 decades now of this event, and they've started right alongside the men. As many of the women have voiced, even with last year, and last year obviously was a little bit different because the mud kind of jumbled everybody together and
it brought the mud was an equalizer.
I'm going to say it negated the early start of the men,
Yeah.
separating them from the women, because as soon as you get men that are there, they're stopping, that are having to clean mud out, they're trying to fix things. So they can get back on it. It negates that whole early start. And then same thing with the women who have to stop and do that same cleaning. It negates the, pro, or not the pros, the amateurs, but the amateurs that are pretty strong that are coming in behind. It negates the difference there. And so they had their own start. They were able to get out there. There was a big enough gap between the start of the pro women and the start of the just general classification age group racers. And so cool just to watch as they're pouring out the live coverage again on their Instagram feed there that Unbound was doing, that women's peloton was staying together, that all of those riders were riding strong together all the way up to when they hit call. And then I think once they hit call, we started to see a handful of flats, some people falling off the back, which is understandable because they were riding a wild pace together up to that point. And so, when you hit that first low maintenance road that starts having some of the punchier hills and some of the loose gravel, that's when some of that stuff does happen and people do get dropped off the back. But it was so awesome just to follow their race throughout the day and to see.
But Neil, it came down to their own finish. A very expanded shoot and finish line. Props to Lifetime for making that happen. I wasn't a huge believer in what they were saying from inside conversations about how they wanted to rearrange the shoot and how it was going to work until I saw it work, and it was wonderful.
It worked fantastically, and it was the right way, I feel like, to do it, because you and me have talked and had these conversations, by the way, not here on the show,
but
bike rides, about they need to either shut down the chute when it comes to a sprint, or they need to figure out a way to put a secondary chute in there because this front end of the 200 is hitting the back, not even the back end, because they do get such a large hour and a half gap start now, are hitting the 7.5, 8 mile or hour long 100-mile finishers. So they're hitting kind of middle of the pack 100-mile finishers, and they needed their own chute. They got it, and especially when it came to the women, 9 of them coming down.
9 deep in the chute on Commercial Street, which is only like half mile. What is it from 12?
You're talking 4 blocks. 4 blocks.
Not even a half mile.
Yeah.
But 9 deep a field. I think Christy Moan and Sean, the race director, shared the timing photo of how close 7 of the 9 were at the line. Just unbelievable, and it was so cool to get to watch them race it out.
Yeah, no, it was. So, again, same thing. We're sitting there, we're watching the, Instagram and trying to figure out what they're going to do. Is somebody going to try to jump off? Is somebody going to, go for it? And sitting there, and everybody was in wild anticipation. I wasn't the only one sitting there on my phone watching the Instagram live. We're all kind of swapping from one person's phone to the next person's phone to kind of see, because some people got better coverage than the others, depending on what, service you have here. And so we're all kind of trying to keep up and trying to watch it. And it was just crazy to see how close it was, in that it wasn't that nobody could get away. Somebody would try to make a little move, try to make a little attack. And the reality is those last miles are pretty flat. It's pretty easy to cover those attacks.
Yeah, from America's Sin.
But they were all doing the work, it seemed like, too. A lot of them were kind of rotating through and taking their pulls and doing the work. And you were sitting there saying, here are 9 women that have just gone out and crushed 202 miles. They're all deserving.
Yeah.
But only one's going to get that top spot. It happened to be Rosa Closer, and it was just like, you look at it and like all these women just went out there and put down a record pace, which it was again. And I mean, it was cool to get to see. It was cool they had their own finish. It was awesome that there was 9 of them coming to that finish line, sprinting it out. If you watch some of, again, Lifetime's coverage and some of the other coverage that has been taken out there, I mean, as they turn on the commercial, Sarah Sturm's kind of taking the lead out for G Shures, and she's just kind of going, which is, if you know Sarah, or if you've ever seen Sarah around, Sarah's not big at all, and she's got to be almost 6 feet tall. I mean, she's huge, but Sarah's just going off the front, and they raced so hard, and you watch just how much positioning even took place over those 4 blocks. Because
there was a shot of the FPV drone coming over, right over their head height type deals. It just perfect.
So much movement that I guess I wouldn't have expected in 4 blocks worth of racing, because, I mean, that's a segment on Strava, and I ride that segment on Strava from 12th to 8th all the time. And
every time you and I ride, you come from your house that way.
Yeah, and I wouldn't think, oh, wow, this is going to provide this sprint that there's going to be so much movement within a field.
And just the bike handling in that 4 blocks.
Well, and you see, especially, like I say, on some of that drone footage, just how close their wheels and everything are when it comes to that racing. And it's like, and they're doing this after 202 gnarly gravel miles. Holy cow. But oh my gosh, just so cool. So cool to see that many women coming down. They've got their own race, which was awesome to get to see. It's what they all wanted. And, I'm glad to see that it took place. I'm sure there are still things that they will address probably going into 2025, but this was a great improvement from previous races for them.
Before I jump into what we did for our coverage on race day, which is very odd and unique that we aren't even to that point in the day yet of where we pulled really cammers out to start our day. What was your favorite part of the day, Neil?
Oh, riding with my son.
Walk
That's
us,
not even a question.
walk us through what that was like.
So again, he gets up about 7:00. We go down and we watch the hundreds. And our nerves are calm. So to kind of calm him out Friday, Lifetime, one of our buddies, Mason, had asked me to go put some signs out on course, and I just said to Lane, I said, hey, let's go for a ride. You and me, let's go out, let's hang out, let's go experience some of the 100 and 200 mile course stuff that you're not going to get to ride or get to see out there, but just to see what others are doing. And we'll put these signs out and just have a good time. We'll grab a slice of Casey's Pizza on the way back in, just enjoy ourselves. And that really brought his nerves down. Now, I will say this, when about 8:30 on Friday morning hit, the nerves went right back up, and he experienced what all of us cyclists experience before a race. And I think the kid was in and out of the bathroom maybe 5 or 6 times over that hour period. And finally, I was just like, let's get on the bike and go downtown. You'll be fine. It'll be okay. And so we got on. We rode downtown. Got out there. We were not planning on being kind of in the middle of the pack lining up for the 25. We kind of wanted to be at the back, but I think that's the strategy that a lot of people riding the 25 take, is that they want to kind of sit back, because not a lot of these folks that are riding the 25, I'm not saying some, but are newer, and so they haven't ridden maybe as much or maybe in as big and large of groups as this. And so we took it easy rolling out of town, got on the gravel. Everything was going pretty well for the early part. He rode so hard and kept going, which is tough because a lot of times when we go out and train, it's 4-mile chunks and we stop and take a drink, because while he's really good at grabbing his Nerd gummy clusters out of his back pocket, he's not really good at grabbing his water bottle.
And priorities, right?
Yeah, and taking a drink out. So we would do a lot of stopping and drinking And he was kind of good not doing that, which I was kind of surprised. But he did drink, and he drank plenty on the ride. It was a struggle out to Americus. To you, to me, to a lot of people, that's not a lot of climbing, obviously, on the way out to Americus, but especially when we hit road H5, there's just a slow, kind of gradual upward pitch to that road. I don't even know if it's a 1% type thing. Maybe at most 1%, but it was enough that it really was tiring him out. So I assured him, because it was the reality, we were riding into a light north wind, and we were riding slightly uphill the whole way to Americus, that when we turned around, things would change. It would get better. And sure enough, it did. I mean, obviously between the downhill, between having a little bit of just light breeze at our back, but also, too, being able to count down those miles instead of thinking, we got, and he didn't know, by the way, that it was 27 miles. So he thought it was 25. So I kept counting him down to...
Did Lane have a computer on his bike?
No.
So, he wasn't able to count down truly.
No. So he was just asking me how far in we were, and I'd be like, we're 14 miles in, and at one point he's like, I don't want to do the math of how many's left, and then he did it immediately in his head, and he's like, it's 11, because kid's really good at math, and I'm like, yeah, buddy, 11 miles left. And we kept rolling. We don't hit really any kind of what I would say is a climb, especially for even a kid, until you come back into the kind of end section there, and you got to climb up over the interstate, and there's a pretty solid climb there. There's one shortly afterwards as you're approaching Road M. There's a little one on Road M as well, and then obviously Highland. And as he's going through these, he kept saying to me, Dad, I'm going to get off and walk this one. And my encouragement to him was, you walk it when you can't pedal any longer. And he never got off his bike and walked it.
Spoken like a single speeder.
Basically, I'm like, you got gears. Use your gears. And as long as you can use your gears and you can keep pedaling, keep pedaling.
The thing is Neil says the same thing to me when I jump on my geared bike too now. He's like, Matt, you've got gears. Use them.
Yeah, use them. I mean, they're there for a reason. If you're going to ride a geared bike, absolutely take advantage of them. And again, he was mentally psyching himself out too with the 25 or with Highland Hill that he wasn't going to climb that. And I'm like, same thing. And he climbed a pylon, no problem. About 2 miles out there in that gravel section behind the university by the campus woods, I asked him out there, I said, hey, you want to do the 50 next year? And he kind of looks at me, not very happy, and just says, I deny that request, which just, bursting out laughing.
That's not the only time in the day we got that answer to a race question, though.
Yes, I know. And so I'm like, all right, buddy, that's fine. We don't have to do the 50 next year. Like, I just was having fun with you, trying to be chill, because, by the way, we're, past mile 25 now. And he's like, what? And he gets really mad about that. I'm like, yeah, sorry, I don't want to tell you, but it's actually 27 miles.
Let me tell you how long the 100 mile is.
Yeah. It's 108, buddy. And so we roll in, and he comes down commercial, and the kid takes off, and I gave him the same advice I give everybody else. Like, just enjoy the finish line, man. Like, chill out, relax, enjoy this. And he's like, no, I want to beat you. And I'm like, look, I'll let you win at some running races because it's running, and I don't really care.
But I have an ego.
But I'm like, you're not going to beat me on a bike. And I thought about just gas sprinting, to the finish line and leaving him. But I didn't. Instead, I sat there and just kind of looked over at him, made sure our wheels were right together, that our handlebars were right together.
You city limit sprinted him.
No, I didn't. I left him. I left him alone, and we finished. Actually, our timing chips crossed at the exact same time, and I was sitting there kind of watching it. I want him to, and I told him this later. I said, I want you to earn beating me when it comes to a race, and he will someday, 100%, and it will feel really good when it comes to that point. But I'm also not going to give him that's right here and now, which maybe makes me a bad parent, but I want him to earn that one. Whereas running, I'll be honest, I can't sprint faster than the kid. Now, granted, if it came to the entirety of a race when we've gone running before, like the entirety of the race, I'm going to beat him because I stop with him and I, do all that stuff and help him out. But when it comes to the last 200, last 200 meters of a race, like I can't out sprint the kid in that short of a distance. His little fast twitch kid legs go too quick. My old lumbering body doesn't quite do that.
I'm glad you and Lane had a great day out there. Made some great memories.
And shortly afterwards, after he'd got his cold water and he got his medal and he got his cup and everything else, came up as we're standing there grabbing food at the food trucks, and he's like, so hey, can we do the 50 next year? And I was like, if we're able to do the 50 next year, we'll do the 50 next year, but we're going to actually have to train this time because we didn't do a whole lot of training this time around. We'll see what next year holds for us.
Yeah. It's hard. A lot of goals out there for people. We're a year away from it. 100%. So lots of time to figure out what the plan is for next year. But I guess that leads us into the evening, the night.
The night, yeah. This in the morning.
So we had, it really kind of puzzled me this year as to go, what am I doing for coverage with the shakeup kind of at the bike shop, changing careers here to running the media company full time in the last month, to what is Gravel Guru's role in covering the event? It's something we've always been a very large part of, and as the memories on social media pop up over the years, we go, oh man, we have done a lot of coverage where we used to be really some of the only highlights of this event, especially the only highlights put out within 24, 48 hours.
Yeah.
So seeing some of those memories pop up and go, so what are we going to do this year? Well, you and I are pretty nostalgic people, I think, in a sense of we've watched this event evolve, grow into what it's become from 600 people to 1,000 people to, So I don't know when the idea came to us. I think it was last week, though. It wasn't
too
super
long
early.
ago.
It
No.
might have been Friday even, or Thursday during the expo when we were talking.
I feel like we had a couple small conversations before that about the idea and kind of rolling it around, but I don't think we were maybe really set in stone.
I don't think we were serious about it at that point
I
necessarily.
don't know how serious we are about things in general. A lot of times when we talk about doing them, I mean, just reality.
So,
But
the idea that came to mind is there's an ordinance in Emporia, and I don't know if it has to do with like the beer garden and liquor sales and stuff, but at midnight the noise has to be cut off.
Yeah.
The music is shut off, the PA is shut off, because we are still a town of 20,000 people that aren't necessarily involved in bicycle racing, even this week of the year. So there is the noise ordinance, and anybody that's been around events knows that. So downtown becomes pretty empty, quiet, I guess, and almost an eerily level of quiet. But the chute is still open for another 3 hours of finishers coming through. So we had the idea of, why don't we grab the camera at midnight and stand down there and interview as many people as we can between midnight and 3 a.m., which is called the Breakfast Club, I believe, technically, out there. And that's what we did.
yeah, we stood down there and we were lucky enough to get the first finisher there across the line right after
12:01.
midnight. Yeah, I mean, right after midnight. And stood down there all the way to the end. It was clear. and I think we noticed this, at least when we started off, that we weren't going to get everybody. I mean, there were some people that
were some people that definitely not in shape to talk to.
some people that I don't know if they knew which direction was forward, really, for the most part, other than they were maybe following the blinky light ahead of them or whatever their Garmin was telling them to do. But some folks that were definitely felt the 202 miles in a way that others didn't, that we weren't going to get on camera. That was all good. But we tried to grab as many people as we could. And we got folks, from all over, from folks that were here in Emporia, Kansas, to folks as far away as Japan, and a lot of places in between, to kind of chat about their experiences out there. And, it was awesome to get to chat with those folks and to hear kind of their struggles, their ups, their downs, the highs, the lows of the day. It was cool. I really enjoyed it.
If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. We've uploaded the audio file too for it here on the same place you're listening to this. So it'll show up at the end of the video as one of our last published videos. 30 minutes basically of interviews. That's all it is interviews talking to people throughout the day, but felt very old school way of talking about the race. I mean, when this race started, it wasn't getting finished in 9 hours and 11 minutes. I talked to Yuri Hoswald this week. He won in 2015. His winning time, now that was a mud year, was just a minute over 13 hours.
Yeah.
So just understanding, that all of a sudden the finish line used to not start till 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, really getting kicked off. And now 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, people are out there partying, watching the winners come through. So, the Midnight Club is kind of where this event was built around, because to me, it's the average Joe and Janes out there that pushing through. These people all have jobs. They all have careers, type deal to achieve this goal.
Yeah, it's the group of folks that are really going out there and pushing their limit, that are testing to see, can I do something as wild and as crazy?
Yeah. The first comment that came into me, and I'm just going to read it here real quick, was one that really kind of struck me. I can't help but think back to the beginning of this event, that this is what Jim and Joel created this event for, guys like me and these others who push beyond their limits to accomplish a great feat they didn't think they could finish. Without all the hype, fame, and glory, normal people doing great things. That really sums up to me kind of the conversations we were having.
Yeah, these are folks that are just average folks, moms and dads, full-time workers, people that work in offices, people that work, maybe in construction or other things that are just going out there and saying, can I do 200 crazy miles out in the Flint Hills and get done before cutoff? And it's one of those things that you really hope you can do. But I would say, having been in the Breakfast Club before, you sometimes question whether or not you can do it, because it's not an easy task.
It's a long day.
Not all of us are world-class athletes. Not all of us have the funds or the ability to pay for a coach that's going to take us to maybe the next level, that is going to help us to race the sun or to do other things like that. And, these are the folks that are kind of just going out there grinding, making, their availability when they can, maybe as weekend warriors, maybe jumping out on a group ride or two throughout the week and trying to amp up and get ready for this. And, they got it done. And it was just cool to see them come across, to see the different levels of emotion, the different levels of kind of where some of them were at throughout. Some of them were pretty caked, and some of them were definitely still feeling fresher than others.
Yeah, absolutely great part of the day. Glad we got to do it. I would say this much. I think we probably expected to be able to talk to a few more people, but the weather was really freaking nice that day.
Man, a beautiful day. Seriously, don't underestimate just how nice they had it this year. I would put it up there for me. And this is just me going back to events that I know the weather of, either because I've heard about it or because I've experienced it. But to me, it was probably right up there with 2014. 2014, when Brian Jensen had won and kind of set a pretty new speed record for the course at that point. And that was another day that was similar to this. Cloud cover in the morning, and the sun broke in the afternoon, and you were able to go fast that day.
Yeah, so amazing accomplishments to everybody that finished, came and attended, and attempted the event even. Just congrats for coming out and trying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So fantastic part of the week. I have to admit, there was one thing we haven't talked about yet in the episode that was my absolute favorite part.
Okay.
The rodeo guys on Walmart bikes. I think it's amazing. If you're on Instagram, go check out Steve the Intern's Instagram page from Rodeo Labs. Just some dudes having fun.
Yeah, that was cool. I was down there downtown when they finished, and just to see them come across on these Walmart bikes. I mean, and nothing fancy, not thousands of dollars.
And definitely didn't downplay it, Walmart bikes that they bought this week in Emporia, stock tires, but they had a mechanic go through them all. Understand that bikes are built well, but trust your mechanics. We've had Isaac on before. Everything was set right, but went out and just had a great day. I mean, and they talk about it, just how simple it was to get out and you pedaled your bike. And I think you and I are both single speeders for the most part. We both have geared bikes. We switch back and forth when we ride them. But that's kind of the appeal to single speed. Maybe not on the level of a Walmart bike, but you get on and ride your bike.
Yeah, you just go. And, the first time I jumped on a single speed back in 2017, it made me feel like a kid again when I was riding single speeds. And I just loved that feeling. It was just fun to go out to pedal my bike. I did a 20-mile ride here, around town, and I was like, I feel like a kid again.
Correct, and that's exactly the feeling.
And so, to see these guys jumping on Walmart bikes, I mean, I'm glad they went over them, that they made sure everything was torqued properly, taken care of properly. I know that they put their own saddles on it. I know that they...
Seat posts were different.
Seat posts.
That was it.
They put sealant, I think, too, in the tubes, right?
Yeah.
And otherwise, they rode it stock pretty much the rest of it. And super cool. Good on them for doing that, and just having a fun time as opposed to making it a stressful event.
So that's your homework for this episode. There's 3 things. Go watch the Hall of Fame from this week, watch our coverage from the finish line, the Breakfast Club, and then go have fun and look up Steve the Intern's Instagram and see them doing it on the Walmart bikes that did it. And thank you so much to everybody that came to Emporia, that watched content from Emporia this week. Emporia loves seeing you here. It's always the best week of the year. So thanks so much for watching. This is Gravel. Neil and Matt here. We'll see you next time.